Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us on our conference from Behind the Development. We're really glad to have you on board. First of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Alexandre Chénier. I'm the owner of Hockey Development. I'm also a Hockey Canada certified skill coach and Hockey Quebec certified skill coach. I'm working with Major AAA here in my city, and I'm also a teacher in physical education at elementary school. Um, I have worked with pro player to younger player, and I have many camp during summer also. Thank you for being with us, like I said, and I'll let introduce my partner Mitch.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for the introduction. This is me, Mitch Jigger. I just came back a couple of weeks ago from Russia. I'm the video coach for the Torpedo Nizhny Novgorod in the KHL. I just finished my first year with them. I am the chief of hockey development in North America for Sport Contract. I'm certified by Canadian Sport Institute, so I have my advanced coaching diploma. So basically, it's the NCCP 4. On top of that, I'm certified high performance 2 by Hockey Canada that I've done, I think it was 6 or 8 years ago. And I'm the owner of Behind the Bench, basically a video analyst that I can guide people, coaches, players with it. So I've worked with coaches from a different level on the video side. Check out my website if you need more information, www.behindthebench.ca. And lastly, basically, I've worked as a head coach or assistant coach or GM at probably every level. Work here in Quebec from U8 to U20. Work with as a scout in the Q here. Work in the WHL. Work in the CSSHL. I've worked youth sports. I've worked with pro guys, young guys. Now I'm working in the KHL. So this is who I am. If we move to why we picked behind the development, or I should say behind the development, it's a mix of me and Alex. So I own behind the bench, and he's own hockey development in French, en français. So it's a mix of both. So that's why we had a lot of questions. Hey guys, you've made a mistake. No, it's not a mistake. So it's behind the me and development in French him. So that's a mix that we decided to merge together. So that's why it's not a mistake. It's just a mix of us. So that's why I think it's great because we want to make sure we reach as much as people as we can. Before moving back to Alex with our speaker for this presentation, I would just like to say thank you to all our partners. Without them, we will never have the same exposure worldwide for sure. Everything went beyond and above so far, and thank you to all of you to make this happen. So, first of all, we would like to thank the coaches side. Uh, with coaches side, we if you're using the coupon BTD 21 BTD 21, you can save $20 off of an annual membership. And if everyone who subscribe to one of the live conferences, we will giving one free annual membership at the end. So in June, we would like to say thank you to coach them. With them, they provide all the drawing that you can see in the conferences or after throughout the email. You can save 15% off on an annual membership by using the coupon BTD15. BTD15. Same thing as the coaches side. Coach then will give one free annual membership at the end of all the conferences to everyone who subscribed to one of the conferences. And we would like to say thanks to True Hockey. They will give 3 pairs of gloves at the end of the conferences. So we will pick 3 people that will receive a brand new designed by True pair of gloves, the color and the size that you want, obviously. So we would like to say thank you to 3 of them. And we would like to say thank you to Hockey Quebec and Hockey Canada to help us to be part of them and to make that this country probably, not probably, the best country in the world with hockey. So, Alex, your turn with the presentation and the speaker for today.
Thank you, Mitch. We're really proud to have with us tonight Corey McNabb. Corey will be talking about transfer from practice to game. Corey is the director of player development at Hockey Canada. Thank you, Corey, and enjoy everyone.
thanks everybody, and thanks for taking the time out of your evening to join us, and thanks to Alex and Mitch for putting these on. I know they're valuable. Over the last 14 months, I think everyone's probably spent a lot of time on various Zoom calls and what have you, but anytime you have a chance to get on and ask some questions and see something, and hopefully you can take a couple tidbits out that will help you as a coach get better. I think it's valuable. I know I've been on a ton of these, and every time you go on, you always learn something. So like Alex said, if there's any questions, feel free to type them into the chat and we can touch base with them at the end of the session. So the topic is transfer from practice to game. And to me, I think it's probably one of the most important aspects of hockey. We have lots of great skills coaches out there, skating coaches, goalie coaches, different things like that. And to me, I think the next level is how do we transfer what we're doing from a skill standpoint into seeing players be able to perform those things in games. Sometimes it's going to happen quickly. Other times it's going to take a while. But as a coach, I think there's some points that you sort of need to know as you get into this. Is number one is where you're at. Number two, where we need to get to. What is the skill development that's required? How does that tie into the tactical development that's required? Understanding quality instruction, whether it's yourself or if you're contracting or bringing someone in to work with your players or your team. A knowledge of the teaching process, and that's going to be a little bit different for every coach and a little bit different for every player. And then how does it tie into the game or team play? And I think that's something that's important is making sure that the skill that we're working on has a game application. Yes, there's obviously times when we're going to be doing some things on the ice that maybe don't have a direct access application to the game, but it's fun. Kids enjoy working on that type of stuff. But overall, we want to get to the end goal of seeing what we're working on in practice, what we're working on the skill development, and see players be able to implement that into the game. So I think from a beginning standpoint, you want to take an overall assessment of your team. And then number two, you want to look at position specifics. So what is the overall assessment of your forwards, of your defense, and of your goaltenders, and then finally down to the individual player, because that's going to help you to build your plan on what you want to do. And obviously in practice, you have an opportunity to work on individual things. You may have the opportunity to do forward and defense splits where you're working on something at one end specific with forward, something with defensemen. And then ultimately the assessment of your team is how do they play in games? How do they practice as a whole? And where do we need to get to from there? So we look at this chart. I think, in an ideal situation, we want to try and accomplish what we see in the upper right-hand corner. So something that's highly repetitious and there's game simulation. Probably the worst case scenario is something that's non-game like and low reps. Obviously, we want to make sure that kids are having fun on the ice. They enjoy coming to the rink, but we also want to make sure that we're keeping them busy. Yes, there's times when you're going to have to slow things down because you're teaching or you have discussion. But overall, if your practice or your skill session is game simulation and high repetition for the kids, you're going to see development happening. So just some things that we kind of want to talk about before we sort of get into some of the video is sort of the difference in terminology that we use at a Hockey Canada level. So progressions, and a lot of times a progression is the same drill. You start off with skating, then you add a puck, then you add a pass, you might add additional players, and then I think you want to add stress or pressure to it. But basically it's the same setup. So it's progressing along the same drill, but you're just adding different components to add a progression on it. When we talk about a skill blend, it's identifying the different skills and how they're needed to perform a play. So it's the skating skills you need to have, and then be able to do those skating skills with a puck on your stick, and then being able to do a move with that puck while you're skating, and then ultimately finishing with a shot. So it's blending all the different skills that might come into play. And obviously as a coach, you're going to have to reflect back and look at what point does a play or a skill maybe break down, and does it happen at the skating component? Does it happen at the puck control, or where now you're going to have moves and deception and before you get into the shot? So that'll kind of give you an element of understanding where do we need to maybe stop and slow down, where do we have to regress, or where can we progress, because maybe the players are doing everything really well depending on the age and the level they're at. The continuum to us is skills in combination and skill blends. So it's sort of the different plays that happen within a drill. So it might start, for example, with picking up a loose puck, then it's a skating skill, then it's puck control or puck protection, changing directions, driving a lane. It's how do you sort of sequence all these different skills in order for a play to happen. And then the last one we talked about is a chain of events. And these are really the skills that happen within a game in order for a play to happen. So it might be a defenseman doing a puck retrieval, skating with the puck, making a pass, the skating pattern that the player who receives the puck does, the moves or deception, puck protection, and do they generate a scoring chance? And at the end of the day, when we look at sequences that happen in a game, if any one of these links in this chain of events breaks down, then it probably ends up in a turnover, loss of possession, what have you. And you could also look at the same thing from a defensive side. What are the skills from a defensive side when your team doesn't have the puck that they incorporate in order to try and get the puck back? So it could be angling, it could be stick on puck, it could be stick checks, it could be body contact, any one of those things. But I think as a coach, when you look at different sequences, it becomes easier to understand where your team is at or where your players are at when you can look at the overall sequence of plays and see what didn't happen in order for the play to break down, or what did happen in order for the play to occur. And obviously it doesn't always end up in a goal or even a shot on net, but there's a lot of good things that can happen. And so we try to break things down from that standpoint and look at it and say, maybe the link is right off the bat. Maybe it's the defenseman not being able to go back and pick up a puck and make a good first pass, or the pass reception from the forward, or the skating pattern, the position on the ice, different things like that. So it gives us a better chance to look at why things are happening or not happening in a game. When it comes to the skills and the practice side, I think even with higher end players, you don't always have to worry about speed and pace at the start. Sometimes it's okay to slow things down and just have them work on repetition and the technique and build in those components so they become sort of automatic. And then you want to be able to add in those progressions or the skill blends where you're starting from simple and you can make it more difficult. But even along that progression, you want to be able to make sure that players aren't losing execution in some of the more basic components. And sometimes that happens. We see lots of kids that are great skaters. All of a sudden you get a puck on their stick and maybe some of the skating skills aren't done as efficiently. Maybe they have trouble making a move. Maybe they have trouble changing pace or getting in a position to shoot the puck. So you want to be able to add those elements on. And as you're adding on, looking to see if you see any breakdowns in what the players are accomplishing. And then I think at the same time, it's important to work on the same skills in a variety of drills. You don't necessarily have to do the same drill all the time. It's important to do drills that are going to challenge the players, make sure that they're thinking so it just doesn't become automatic for them to think about the pattern, but also to be able to add different things like a read or read and react into the play to make sure that they're making the right decision at the right time. And I think at the end of the day, you want to be able to progress, again, depending on the level and skill level of your players, where they can practice at a speed where they can not have to worry about making a mistake. And ultimately, when you get to that point, then it starts to become more automatic. But along the way, it's okay if kids make mistakes. Challenge them, make sure they're actually trying to do things. And if they make a mistake, it's okay. They're going to learn from it. So, again, from a practicing side, there's a lot of different elements that a coach that you want to look at from there. And then I think it's important to have the figure it out component, which is really creativeness and improvisation. The game is all about read and react. Things happen really, really fast, and every age and level that the players go up, it gets faster. And then so the read and react component is something that I think really needs to be put into your drills, so they have that ability to work on those types of things in practice and then see them transfer into the games. So again, if they're not losing the puck or they're falling down or they're not going at a quick enough speed, it's okay to push them. See where they can get to in practice, because at the end of the day, we've all heard the old adage, we're gonna practice like we play. But if we encourage those types of things in practice, then you're going to see the players start to adapt and develop and build as they go. And again, not all players are going to develop at the same pace, but as long as we're allowing and we're not holding them back and we're allowing them to progress through that, I think you're going to see development happen. And then ultimately, I always try to end off drills where I let the players decide what the pattern is. So I don't want them doing a drill and because I said, delay here or reverse here, turn left, turn right. I always like to have the drills finished where the players can sort of decide. I might set up the drill and then let them decide the pattern. And maybe you'll add some parameters, maybe you'll take some parameters away. But I think it's good for the last thing they sort of remember in a drill is that they can be free, whether it's one player, two player, three players, is so that as they're finished a drill, there's that element of creativity. There's that element of them being able to decide what they're going to do, so that, you know, again, when it comes to a game application, they're not just thinking about, well, I need to delay because I crossed the blue line. No, you want them to delay because it's what the play calls for. So I think we want to get into those situations. So then the next part is to try and practice with purpose and speed. And as I mentioned earlier, yes, we're going to be doing some things on the ice that maybe aren't always game applicable, but ultimately you want to get to the point where you're doing drills that have a purpose to it. So they've already worked on the skill, they've got repetition, you've given them the opportunity to try to figure things out, add some creativity to it. But then you want to get to the point where, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And does this drill that we're doing accomplish that? Is it trying to, you know, get the puck into the middle of the ice or drive a lane, get a shot on net, you know, whatever your goal is that you want to try and make sure that they can take the technique and apply it to a situation so that it happens where it would normally happen in a game. And then ultimately you want to get to the point where you're doing those drills in practice at the same speed that you would do in a game. And so to help with that, I like adding stress or pressure at every chance that I can get. It might start off simple. Maybe there's no pressure, maybe there's some obstacles on the ice. Then you get to a point where maybe this is a coach who's just adding some passive pressure, and then a player, and then you want to get to a point where they're going to perform the drill at game speed, so that you can start to see that adaptation. And, you know, as far as having, you know, different things on the ice, obstacles, they're a great way to get players, and especially young players, to start off. But I think at some point you almost need to take those away, so that players understand the depth, the width that they have, understanding the space and the timing and everything that goes with it. And ultimately you want to take those away and add coaches and other players, so that, you know, for example, the puck carrier is under stress in drills and practice, because that's what's going to happen in a game. And so, you know, again, depending on the age and level where you're at, sometimes you'll be able to take those things away sooner. Sometimes you have to keep them on the ice longer. Maybe you take them away and then you find a point where you have to go back and use them again, which is all fine. But that's part of the art of coaching, is understanding how fast we can progress, where we have to redress. And those are all important considerations you want to take into place. So, and then, you know, obviously the game application, I think players nowadays, they want to know why we're doing the drill. How is it going to make me better? Is this going to help me score? Is this going to help me defend? So you want to be able to tie it back to a game like application, where it's going to be something that they've worked on in practice. They can recognize a situation, and then ultimately they have the ability to do that in the game, and they want to know how they can apply it. And I think more and more players are really getting in tune with different things, and they know if it's a drill that is just being done to do a drill, or if it's a drill if there's a specific purpose. And I think our job as coaches is to make sure the players, that we understand what is the purpose of this, why are we doing it, and how is this going to make us better. So again, from a teaching progression, if we look at a general sort of plan that I like to follow, is we start with technique, then we have practice, where we get the repetition into it, and we add the figure it out component. Finally, we get to practice with purpose and speed, and then the game application. And I don't think it really matters what the skill is, if you can follow a bit of a plan on how you want to get to your end goal. So knowing where you're at, understanding where you need to get to, and figuring out how much time you're going to spend on each one of these levels, you'll be able to really put a plan in place as far as developing where the players are going to get to. So on the right-hand side, for example, puck protection. You know, the first step might be establishing body position. Number 2 is actually protecting the puck. Number 3 is you want to extend that possession. So once you protected the puck, it's how do I hang on to it? Number 4 is be a threat, and number 5 would be a finish with, you know, hopefully a shot on net that results in a goal. But again, I think you can build sort of a 3-step plan, a 4-step plan, a 5-step plan on whatever sort of sequence of skills you want to work on, so you can evaluate at each component and understand where we can progress, or where we may have to stop and spend some more time to. So we like to build a lot of those, as we call them, continuums or chains of events, to look at, you know, here's the full sequence, and evaluate all the different components to make sure that, you know, we sort of have those links that are all linking together as far as being able to perform something in a game. So if we get into practice the game, you know, ultimately as a coach, the purpose of our practice is usually to improve or develop something that we want to see in the game. whether it's habits, whether it's skills, whether it's tactical, whether it's team play. But it's important that if you're working on different things at different times in the season, because it is something specifically that you've identified, that as you work on it in a practice setting, you'll start to see it happen in a game. So this is an example of a warm-up drill from our World Junior team. We just call it a cut the hands warm-up, and there's a couple different progressions on that. But it's basically a puck protection drill where players are working on protecting the puck as they're cutting through another player's hands, and ultimately it gets to a point where they're going to cut through the hands and steal the puck from another player. So it's a sequence that our World Junior team used. And then this was from a morning skate. And then in the red-white game that night, we actually saw a good example of a player where he cut the hands and was able to create a turnover so that their team can go through. So these are little things that coaches, you can make notes on of, hey, we worked on this yesterday in practice. We worked on this this morning, whatever it is. And you can start to see players executing those things in games. And that ultimately is where we want to watch for that game transfer. From a process standpoint, I think it's important to start simple, even with high-level players. Work on the technique, look at the skating skills that are required, look at the puck skills that are required, look at the fakes, identify the technique component to make sure that is there first. And then I think number two, you want to get to a position where you can add some stress so that they can do the exact same thing when there's pressure on them. And then, aside from a skill component, it's actually doing drills in practice where you can see some game simulation. So if we just watch the first clip, simple open retrieval for a defenseman going back to the neutral zone. We're looking on little things like shoulder check, make sure you get your eyes up ice, stick fakes, toe turns, different things like that. So working on the basic elements. And then as you can see, adding some stress. So now that they have to be able to do the same thing in a situation that's going to call them to have to do that move in order to get away. So we really want to try and emphasize good technique and then the habits. So it becomes automatic for them every time to take that little shoulder check, make sure they're doing the fake, making sure that they have the timing down, they understand how far away that player is from them and different things like that. The next thing would be as that's an element incorporated into this download drill. It has a couple different elements in it, but ultimately, the defenseman's going to end up with a shot here. And then the third component of this drill is going back into the neutral zone to pick up a loose puck, and they have pressure on them. So again, we see a little shoulder check, body position, chip off the wall, and now it's a reattack. So from those components, there's elements that you want to maybe, you could break this entire drill down into different sequences on what players are going to do and how you can determine what to develop them on. And then in the game clip, we see Bowen Byram there going for the loose puck and does a good stick fake, a little head fake, creates some time and space in his partner, and they end up getting the puck going north up the ice. So, and these are little drills that I think that you can do anywhere on the ice, and you can apply to any situation. But ultimately, when you start to see those things happen in a game, then you know what you're teaching from a coaching standpoint is working. It's another element of practice to game here for defensemen. Again, starting simple, shoulder check, fake, eyes up ice, take a look, scan the ice, see what their options are. And a lot of times I like starting the drills if you know if they're starting on the face-off dot. So you could simulate that off a face-off in the neutral zone where they would normally be standing somewhere around there so that they understand that here's the pattern, here's the angle I have to take back to the puck. And different things like that. So I think that's another important element in the skill development component is starting drills from a position where the players would be in a game. That way there's that automatic understanding and relation to where it is. And then again, adding stress and pressure and still making sure that all the same fundamentals that you're working on are being incorporated when there's someone coming on. So shoulder check, fake, cutting the net, getting the puck up ice, eyes up, being able to understand if I need to make a move or not. So those are all little elements that we want to highlight. And then when you see into a game situation, again, just for a defenseman going back, get the puck and understanding what their option is. So I take the ice in front of me because I have the space. Am I going to have to make a pass? So there's all kinds of different components. But when you can start to see that your defensemen in these examples here are incorporating what we've worked on in order to get the puck out of your own zone, then I think again you're doing things in the right direction. Another component is I think it's important to work on skills that happen often in the game. we can always pick out something that you see that happens once every 5 games or once every, every 10 games or whatever it is. But I think you want to work on things that are going to incorporate components that happen often or that are repeatable, because those are the things that you want to make sure your players have the good fundamentals on, that they have good habits. And so this here drill is basically simulating picking up a loose puck in your own zone and getting it out. And so adding elements of deception, being able to go left or go right, depending on where the puck goes, understand what you're going to do with the puck before you even get it. So making that decision. And then we want to really develop those habits. So just a couple of game situations where this happens all the time. A lot of times players are coming back into their own zone, puck ends up on the wall, little quick look, understand what's my timing, how am I going to get the puck out, and they can get on offense. And just one more example, again, loose puck gets kicked out to the boards, takes a quick look, sees what's happening. And these are plays that happen 20, 30, 40 times in a game. And so to develop drills to work on some of those things, I think is really, really important. And again, I encourage you to work on skills, simulations in practice that are common, because those are the things that you want to make sure your players can perform with a high level of efficiency and a high level of repeatability. Like I said, there's always going to be those times when you're going to pick out one or two little things that are maybe unique, but once you get the fundamentals down, that's when I would start to focus on those things a little bit more. Again, another sort of a realistic pattern, player coming back into the zone, picks up a loose puck, understanding they need to take a look over their shoulder. A lot of times you want to encourage them when you can, get the puck off the wall, get your feet moving right away so you have an opportunity to, again, so we're looking at extending possession. Players looking one way and making a move the other way. These are all little habits and little techniques that are important to work on. And so I think in these situations, from starting a drill where they're simulating coming back into their own zone, and then they get the puck and they're going to attack the other way, you're going to add some elements of game readiness that you want the players to have. So again, transition, a lot of transition drills, I like to start off a play like this. It could be just that pass into the middle, and then get the feet moving, try and create some space, create some openings for yourself, and try and create patterns in the game where those things are going to happen. Another one could be, basically off a face-off, where players got to exit the zone, and then again we look at the skating pattern there. So the player is going into the middle of the ice and then trying to get back outside and create some of that space for themselves. So again, I think the skating pattern in drills is important. As you get up the level, a lot of players are good skaters, but the pattern that they're able to skate and in trying to create something, I think is an important component to look at as well. And so we spend a lot of time on looking at the pattern in drills once players get the puck and what they're trying to do. In this one here, we're really looking at the pattern of skating into the middle of the ice and then skating away so that you pick up that puck in stride, and you're actually going to create some space for there. The purpose of this is, if that's a game situation, you have a forechecker on you, you're trying to get the forechecker to hold the middle of the ice by skating in towards their lane, which is going to force them to stay there, versus just skating straight up the wall. It makes it a lot easier for a forechecker to be able to set the angle on you, for example. So again, when you're looking at drills and the pattern from exiting a zone, what are you trying to do? So get off the wall, create space, and then create that time for yourself. And again, if we look at a situation here from a game, you can see where that pattern of skating in and then skating out, it creates a lot of time for the player to access the neutral zone. And so if they just stay up along the wall, I think it's much easier for the opposition to set the angle and probably have a better opportunity to get that puck away from them there. At some point, when the players get really comfortable with some of the basics, I think it's good to add complexity to your skills. So it could be a skate move, get their feet going up ice right away, being efficient with the puck, placing the puck in a position where as soon as they come out of that escape, they have an opportunity to do something with it. And then you can add little extra moves, so it's toe turn and then an escape out to the other side. So it's good to add the complexity when the players are ready for it. And sometimes we see coaches, they start with this and the players don't have sort of that automatic ability to just go back and do something that's simpler. So I think it's important, again, to read where your players are at so you can look at the different components. And then the other thing with things like this, when you add the pressure, is the players really have to start to understand, what is my next move going to be? What am I going to be able to do? Why would I do this move in order to escape from somebody? And sometimes we see a lot of situations like this where the player will do the move too soon, so they don't actually draw the defender in. And they might be good on their skates, or they might do something well, but the reality of it is they did it too quick, and the defender can just basically angle them off. Or they do the move so fast that the defender doesn't have time to fall for the fake. And so adding some little complexity things like that will give you an opportunity to look and see where the players are at there. And again, just the opportunities for players to make the read, understand where the pressure's coming from. Can I escape to my backhand? Can I go to the forehand? And when you start to see players doing some really good things, like in this play here that ends up with a good scoring chance, it's important to note that the players have that ability. And again, are you going to see the transfer into games right away? Not automatically. Sometimes it's going to take some time. These are obviously our World Junior players, so they're skilled. They're the best in Canada, so they already have a very good sort of fundamental understanding of this. But it's important to look at that. Another one, habit for the shoulder check. Understanding, again, escape move, a little pick beside the net, get some space. But these are all little things that you want players to be able to do, is on demand when the situation calls for it, skate their way out of trouble, and help maintain possession of the puck. So there's, again, looking at these little plays that happen in games, and that's where a lot of the drills that we like to do come from, is we look at plays that happen in game. Where do they happen on the ice, and how do we practice or drill that? At the same time, you might want to add simplicity. So, maybe your players get to the point where they are skilled, they can do all the moves, on demand. They don't have to think about it. It's sort of automatic. And then maybe you want to add something to say, okay, I want you to keep the puck on the forehand, or I want you to make sure you underhandle the puck. There's always going to be times when, you can give players some freedom if they want to handle the puck or not. But there's going to be other times when it's to their benefit to underhandle the puck or try and keep the puck on the forehand. So maybe you want to even step back and create some simplicity in the drill. So again, puck stays on the forehand here the whole time. We want the players' eyes up the ice so they can see what's going to happen. And, again, very, very simple drills, but it's not exactly simple to get players to be able to do this in a game where they don't overhandle the puck, where there's a chance they might lose it, being able to make efficient movements. And these are all simple on one hand, but they're also complex because it takes a player a long time to be able to get to the point where they can be efficient with the puck and also do the very, very easy, simple things, but do them to perfection. And sometimes, we see here, we're giving them some bad passes. So they have to be able to pick up a bad pass, get it to a position where that puck is loaded, their eyes are up ice, and they can either skate it or make a play. So again, if you just look at some game clips on those types of things, transferability, quick look, and boom, get the puck going north. So again, it's no stick handle, knows where the puck is, it was loaded, was able to get it up the ice quickly. Another one here, one quick stick handle, but get the puck up the ice. You end up having to regroup and go back and attack again. But the main thing is they maintain possession. So again, I think efficiency in some of these situations is a key thing to get back to. It might be a bit of a regression as far as the complexity and the skill, but the benefit that you're going to see in gameplay is going to pay off. And then just one more there. There was a bad pass on the backhand. The player was able to access it, get it, make a play, and get the play going up the other side of the ice. So again, when you look at a lot of these little plays that happen in games and understand how can we drill this so that we can maintain possession, they're all things that you want to look at from a development standpoint. Habits, again, defensemen just walking the blue line, eyes up the whole time, being able to, what are they doing with their feet? How are they handling the puck? Where are they putting the puck? How are they placing it? These are, again, they're simple drills, but they happen a lot, and it's about players being able to be comfortable. Notice where sometimes we get their feet outside the blue line so that they can understand how to extend the zone, and trying to do all this with their eyes up. At the end of the day, doing all these moves with younger kids, yeah, they're going to look down at the puck, and they're maybe not going to be as efficient at it, but the more you work on it, the better they're going to get. So the simple patterns to develop what you want to develop are sometimes the best ones. And then we just show some game clips of different situations where a stop and go, a little fake, give and goes. Your players then have the ability to create extra things off of these plays versus just getting it at the blue line and throwing it towards the net. The comfortability and confidence with the puck enables your players to sort of get to the next level and make plays in situations like this. There's another one again, the ability to open up, survey, scan the ice, ends up with a good scoring chance. A lot of young players get the puck, and the first thing they do is they just get rid of it. They throw it at the net, hope it gets through. But developing the confidence along the blue line to make things happen like this is all part of the process. And I think it comes down to instilling confidence in players to be able to maintain what you're trying to do and create that time and space for that next play to happen. And these are all things that don't have to be done in complicated drills. It's really almost looking at the plays in the game, breaking them down into simple segments and understanding what do we want to work on, what's our component, and then adding things like deception. So, the fake shots along the blue line to, again, add in that element of thinking, the element of what's my next play going to be. How can I manipulate a defender? How can I manipulate a defender's stick in some of these situations? And then again, just looking at where this would apply into a game situation, so that, again, we'll open up, fake shot, get it back to the far side, and ultimately creates a situation where you could get a shot on net. So again, these are patterns and plays that happen in game that we try to emulate a lot of the drills around. And ultimately, you'll start with something simple. It might just be walking the blue line. Then you can add some of those different elements, where you can hinge it back to the outside, or you want to go fake shot, pass it off to the flanker, whatever you want to do. There's lots of different options and those types of things. And adding some things in combination. So shot on net, maybe it gets blocked, doesn't get through. The other team's going to end up attacking. So how do you get yourself back into position so that you can, play the next component of the play again? Game situations, these types of things happen a lot, and so you want to try and get the pattern for the players to understand that there's other elements to it, and so you can add, as we progress on this. We went through the shot. Now there's a player attacking, and in a lot of situations like this, we look at again the skating pattern of that defenseman. That after the shot, they're holding the middle of the ice, and they actually almost skate away from the player at first because we want them to stay along the wall and try and keep them there so that we can, get over there and get our stick on the puck and different things like that. So again, the patterns on some of your drills are important. A lot of times if a defenseman takes that shot and then just goes in a straight line back along the wall, you're actually encouraging that player on the wall to try and get to the middle. Whereas if your pattern, as you can see on the drill at the top, is to skate into the middle of the ice and bait that player into thinking they have room on the wall, then you can skate and cut them off. So there's some additional elements that you want to try and incorporate into your drills from the game transfer side. And so if we look at this play, again, the player stays along the wall, ends up being a fairly easy play for that defenseman. And so from an offensive side, we want to look at here, the importance of some of the other clips where we saw the player actually trying to get to the middle of the ice to try and create some space versus staying there. That's a very easy play for the defenseman, and it's nice and efficient. And just one more in along the same lines. Is players making it to get that play and into the middle, create some space, and then quickly closes it off. So again, as you look at some of the patterns that you can select in drills, once the drill gets going, is the teaching components of little things that happen in those situations as well. Because at the end of the day, those are little things. They might not seem like they're important, but they're going to help in as far as success along the way. Talked about repetition and making sure that the players can perform a variety of skills, and I think sort of lanes coming up the middle of the ice, the butterfly pattern, if you will, is good to work on. Making sure players get in a situation they can get lots of repetition. So here we have Dylan Cousins. You see his feet are nice and wide apart. Their eyes are up. They're able to move the puck to the forehand and the backhand. They don't have to look down at it very much. And again, these are World Junior players who obviously have a good skill set, but the ability to work on repetition of something specific that you want to do in a setting where they can get a lot of repetition of it. So it's repeatable over and over and over for that one instance in a game when they're going to use that forehand to backhand, move the puck quick to get the puck outside is important. And then you can add a crossover in there. So again, making sure that you can build on your skills, utilize where these things are going to happen in the ice. What's a situation, whether that's attacking an opponent coming out of your own zone, whether it's attacking a defenseman at the opposition blue line, the ability to move your puck before your feet. Again, we want players to be comfortable with this so they can basically become automatic and they don't have to think about it and they can just do it on a dime. But that repetition and the repeatable movement is something that's important. And even for highly skilled players like this, the ability to work on this throughout the season or after practice or before practice is important because you're probably going to see some different things in the game. And then as we see some skill blends here where there's a shot fake, a heel to heel, a shot fake, heel to heel, you can start really blending some of these skills together and look at how players can incorporate these later on into games. So then, again, from a game clip standpoint, the sort of that fast hands toe up, the ability to handle the puck in traffic and still come away with it. Those little situations, again, happen in games all the time. So the more you work on these little types of things and players have the ability to handle that puck in a tight space, the more you're going to see the probability of things like that happening in a game. Again, on the wall, some good examples of moving the puck first in a small space. So again, puck from forehand to backhand, it's always in a position where they can manage it. They don't have to worry about it getting stolen or getting taken away. A lot of those skills can really be developed as part of a warm-up or in those repetition components going down the middle of the ice. Then I like to go to a position where now they've worked on the move, and so now we can work on it into an entry standpoint where you can tell the players, here's our fast hands toe up, dangle a little bit, finish with a shot on net. And usually I'll structure this where I'll pick 4 or 5 different moves. They might get 4 or 5 reps on one, and then we'll move to the next one. And just adding an element of picking up a loose puck and then getting their feet going, understanding what they want to do, eyes up, finishing with a shot. Again, you can progress to adding a chaser in some of these situations, so they have to do the move under pressure when they're stressed from behind, but there's also going to be that defender in front. And again, like I said earlier, I think obstacles are a great way to sort of train this at the start, but at some point you want to try and you move those and have it so it's a defenseman or a coach there, so they understand the space and the depth in which they have to perform the move, understanding where the pressure's coming from behind. But these are all points that you're looking at, and maybe you've evaluated our players in games in one-on-one situations. We're not really creating anything. We're not beating anybody. So it's a chance to go back on work on this. And then again, in this situation, I like finishing off where I just kind of tell the players, fill your boots. You guys do whatever. Don't do the same move twice in a row, but give them those chances and opportunities to continually work on something different and gain some confidence in these situations so that they can hopefully end up beating a person in a game situation. And then just little opportunities there. And then a little fake shot, step inside, gets a shot on net. And these are all components that I think are benefited from players working on sort of that progression of doing things with no traffic, no stress, and then building up to this point. Again, similar, we saw this clip earlier, but again, just the player being able to manage getting access on the offensive blue line, fake, stepping inside, stepping outside, managing that puck, keeping it in a position where they can extend the play and go from there. I think those are all a result of this skill progression and the blending of skills that you do earlier on. Then you want to get to the point where you can, again, focus on simple things, the creativity, change of pace, different elements that happen there. So I think, again, you can focus it where it's just a straight attack. You can add the delays, different components. And again, you want to get to a point where, again, the players are working on certain things that are going to be relatable to them in a game, where you can start with an obstacle, you can take the obstacle away, you can add a coach, you can add a defenseman, you can add pressure. And ultimately, again, from a development standpoint, when players can get to the point where they can make the read based on what they see, based on what they understand. They don't have to think about it. They have the skill set. They can be able to, again, come out of those turns and little plays like that with their eyes up. Different things like that are all elements that are going to be important for them to be able to do in a game situation. So again, if they've worked on it in practice, then they can understand, I'm going to delay, I'm going to get the puck to the net front. So there's a lot of elements in drills, and I think the pattern that you incorporate into your drill can have a lot of say in ultimately where you're going to start to see things happen in the game. Just some other examples of some skill blends. So little change of pace. If anyone remembers in the playoffs last year, Braden Point did a move like this where it was a little jam step or a punch turn and created some space to beat a defender. And the players need to have confidence in this type of thing. So it's working on those things in a situation where there's not a lot of stress, so they can get comfortable. And then when you add the stress to it, it adds to their success. And just the in and out, get players into a situation where they're not just going in a straight line, forcing the defender to do something, trying to manipulate a defender's stick, trying to get a defenseman to cross over. They're all elements from a transfer of habits in practice, so that when you see a player attacking a defenseman in a game, they're not just going in a straight line, they're not just going straight at him. They can add those elements of creativity and becoming a threat to try and beat someone one-on-one. And so from a player standpoint, they love working on this type of stuff, but again, you want to have a purpose to what you're trying to do. Finally get to the point where you can add a second player, and maybe it's as simple as working on passing that under the stick. And again, it's a play that a lot of higher level players will utilize in a game, is using that space between the defender's skate and their stick as an area to attack, or placing the puck to a spot. There's a lot of different elements that you can add to this. And again, to me, it all comes back to sort of assessment of what you're doing in the games, how your players are doing. Are you able to gain the zone easily by carrying it in, or do you have to put it to space? Do you have to make a pass? Whatever those elements are, it's understanding sort of where your players are having success. And then just a game clip of utilizing that space between the defender's skates and their stick. As soon as the defender starts to turn, then realizes, now I have an opportunity to get that puck, and ends up with a good shot on net. And a lot of times, I think even in drills we do in practice where we end up with 2-on-1s, we don't necessarily have a focus on what they're trying to do in some of those things. So again, you want to give your players elements and ideas on things that will work in those situations, so that they don't just ultimately carry the puck into the corner. And then I think, at a certain point, you can really talk about something specific as far as things like efficiency goes. So, again, underhandling the puck, taking a look, getting the puck, and quickly getting it up ice, following the puck up the ice. So again, it's a quick look, skate around the puck, it's on your forehand the whole time, and it's a quick pass up ice. So again, I think as your defenseman, for example, like we're seeing in these situations, grow and develop, then that's something that you can focus on even more, is being really efficient and understanding that quick attack or the quick counterattack is something that might be called for in this situation, because they read it, and even the look off, looking one way, being able to pass the other way. So, this is something I would almost maybe progress to again at the end, once the players are comfortable with all the different elements of retrievals, then really get back to some of the simple things. Where maybe you see players in the game that they're overhandling the puck, or they're taking too much time to make a decision, that you can really drill that in practice. So again, quick look, get the puck on the forehand the whole time, and get the puck up ice, and creates an entry. So, these are plays that you might see your own team or players where they get that puck up there, and then the bump back before the entry is that window has closed. And I think that's where the elite players and the really smart players, they understand where those opportunities are for them to make a play. And so one of the terms you like to use there is make the pass when you should, not when you have to. And I think especially with young defensemen, it's an important thing to remember is make that pass when they should, when the window is open, and don't hang on to it so long that they actually finally make the pass because they have no other choice and they have to get rid of it. So maybe it's you want your defensemen to get their toes up ice right away. So working on simple things like getting those toes up ice before they make the play, so they can join the rush quicker. So again, you can get really, really specific on some of these things depending on the level and where you want to accomplish and see things in games. If you think your transition game isn't that strong or you're too slow, then a lot of times it's going to start with your defenseman. So it's being able to go back and get pucks and make plays on simple components like this, no matter where the puck is, that they can get it and understand what they want to do and get that puck up the ice so they can join. So again, just looking at some game clips and makes a great play. Simple, but it's things like this that I think the elite players can make in their sleep. Looks left, ends up passing right.
Corey?
Yep.
Sorry, just your video. Yeah, Corey, we're not seeing you anymore. Can you just, we're seeing your presentation, but your face, can you just put your video from you, please, your cam?
Yeah, I can try turning that off and on again.
Thank you.
It's showing up on my screen, but
okay.
Yeah, the video's showing up on my screen, but I can't.
Yeah, okay.
Tell what you guys are seeing, but okay. And then just another video clip again of a defenseman going back, getting their toes up ice, and making that good outlet pass to what they see because it's open. So again, a lot of these plays are simple, and sometimes we maybe take them for granted, but they're the little things that really get players to the next level. Again, simple concepts again of moving that puck quick, making that quick decision, making the right play. And again, I think it's important to don't just dump the pucks into the same place all the time. Move them around, put them soft, put them hard, put them deep, put them shallow. Make sure that the defensemen are going to come across all the different situations that you want to get across to them. So I think these are all little elements that are important to incorporate. And we'll just show some game clips again where, again, defensemen can make that decision. What am I going to do with the puck? How am I going to? So the last thing we're just going to talk on here was I'm not sure where we got cut off, but we were talking about moving the puck quick. So again, based on what you're evaluating in your games, how fast are your defensemen able to move the pucks, different situations. And again, I think I like finishing off with some creativity here. Let players decide, and again, we'll add pressure. Add the stress so that they have to make that call as far as what they want to try and do. And again, from a game situation, when you're watching the game clip, it's important to look at some of the little things that players aren't doing in games. One of the last ones here is again just the fake by the defenseman here. Lots of time, head up the whole way, great fake, and was able to get the puck to the outside for an entry. And again, a lot of times we'll tell defensemen to actually go at F1, make them stop moving their feet and hold their space because you're going to have options to go left or right. So those are little things that are easy for a coach to advance as far as how we're doing that. And then, again, look-offs, different components that you can add into the play so that you can add an element of deception. Look one way and pass the other. Players are getting really good at reading eyes now on different plays like that. So again, anything that a defense can do to give themselves more time, more space is obviously going to give them that advantage. And then if we just go back to some game clips here where it's any kind of deception fake that you can add into your drills that we'll see players be able to start to incorporate this stuff into practice. You're going to see, where that benefit really comes into play. And then finally, I think just want to add is, again, some variations, where maybe it's a rim puck where they have to pick it up on their backhand and be able to skate it out. Again, forehand, backhand, all different types of situations where they can pick it up and they can wheel, get the puck going up ice. Maybe they're picking it up and they know that they're going to turn back and cut back and go the other way. So I think the variations on drills and different situations are important to add so that players understand what are all the different sort of little skill components that we have to do, where here you're almost skating past the puck, let it go by you, and then you pick it up as a way to lose a defenseman. So they're all, none of the drills are overly complex, but it's the little things within the drill that I think are important to teach and really elevate your players' execution to the next level. So, for me, I think at the end of the day, the best place to go for that game transfer is watching games, watch pros, watch junior, watch, the top female players if you're in the female game, and watch what they do, watch the little plays that make them successful. But also you can learn from little things where there, maybe mistakes happen or things that they didn't do that you want to emphasize to your players. And I think, when you look at any situation or any play that happens in the game, it would be easy to take this game clip that we see here from Detroit from a few years ago and turn that into a drill, where the puck goes back to the point, and look at key things that happen in the sequence in order for, ultimately the goal to be scored. So, it's the little fake by the defenseman, the fake by Datsuk, the reload of the puck just before he shoots that backhand. Those are key three components that from a gameplay standpoint that I think you can really focus on it and turn this into a drill. And I'll guarantee that this type of sequence is going to happen a lot, where the puck's going from low to high, back down low, and then you're trying to attack a lane and create some space for yourself. So Alex, that's all I had. Hopefully we didn't lose too much there when our call dropped, but happy to take some questions and go from there.
Hey, Corey, thanks for your presentation. I think you had a lot of stuff to go through. I thought that was really good on everything. I hope everyone enjoyed the way to transfer from practice to game. I think it's really an important topic that a lot of coaches struggle with sometimes. Everyone, just before moving to the questions, I will start with, oh, sorry, I don't have the right page here. A lot of question we had was when the video conferences will be available. We always said they will be all on coach's site, sorry. So big news for you, everyone. Starting this week, they will be all the conferences on YouTube. We will share a link with you throughout the week via email and social media. So stay tuned. Weekly, we will upload conferences. So let's say this week it's going to be our first week. So we will have 2 conferences. Next week, we will have our third conferences uploading, and we will go like that until I think it's end of June. So stay tuned. It's going to be 100% free, and do hope you're going to watch it and leave some comments. The other thing, make sure you're following us on social media. Because of you, we're getting bigger. We have more viewers. We have more people engaged. So make sure you're sharing, tweeting, liking, whatever we said. So you're helping us to growth, and at the same time, we're doing this for you. Email, I'm going to send you an email later tonight with from Coach Dem. With Coach Dem, we, Corey, have drawn some drills that you can do in your practice. I think you draw like 15 or 20. That's awesome. So thank you. Make sure you click on the link. Make sure you download the PDF file. If you have nothing by tonight, just take a look at in your spam or junk email. For sometimes it just went straight there. Lastly, talking about partners behind the development, we'll like to say thank you to Coach's site. You can use the coupon BTD21 and you can save 20% off on an annual membership. At the end of their 10 conferences, they will give 1 free annual membership that we will pick. After that, thank you to Coach Dem. Because of them, we're allowed to use Coach Dem and draw drills that all the speakers are drawing for you. It's totally free. You can use the coupon BTD15 and you can save 15% off an annual membership. You can go on Coach Dem. You have 10 days free trial if you want. And same as the coach's side, they will give 1 free annual membership at the end. And true, the last one, they're giving 3 pairs of gloves at the end of all the conferences. So you'll be able to pick your size and everything. Thank you to Hockey Quebec and Hockey Canada to help us to achieve what we want and to let us grow the hockey in the best country in the world. So Corey, moving on to the questions. I have 1, 2, 3. I think I have 6 questions before moving on with Alex on the chat. First question by Colin: how do you pick a team leader and your leadership group?
That's a good question, and I think at every single level, teams are really looking to do that more, is put more responsibility onto the players and really creating that leadership group. Depending on the age and level, if it's at a junior level, a lot of times it's going to be a veteran player, someone who's been around, someone who's been through everything. And a lot of times in minor hockey, the captain or the assistants end up being put on whoever's the best player. So it's, and sometimes those players are good leaders as well, but, I think it's just typically that's what happens. But I think from our side at a Hockey Canada level, we take the leadership group of the team, pretty seriously. We want to make sure that we have a good leadership group. So, there's lots of things, number one, it's, you look at the character of the players. Are they good people? Are they respectful of teammates, of coaches, of the people in the rink, of fans, referees, everything, all those elements that come into it. And then you want to look at guys that do things the right way. Are they good in the dressing room? Are they do they practice well? Do they practice hard? Are they, the first one on the ice, the last one off the ice? Are they the ones when the coach blows a whistle, they're the first ones into the board? Are they supportive of other teammates? There's a lot of different elements that go into it. And, I think sometimes the leadership group on your team can really be the difference between a team that goes a long way or maybe doesn't go as far. I think in general, coaches are good leaders and they can provide a good atmosphere. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to the players being able to hold each other accountable. Do the other respect of the other players and things like that. I mean, we could probably do a whole session on sort of the leadership component. But at the end of the day, it's important, and I think it's something you don't want to take too lightly. You want to make sure that you put some thought into it, and it can go a long way from you as a coaching staff as well, as far as what you're trying to implement from a team side, how you want your team to play, how you want your team to act, how you want your team to be known. It does come down to the leaders, and I think, in any sport, the captains or the leaders on the team are people that, oftentimes, yes, they are amongst the best players, but they're also the ones that work the hardest. They're also the ones that make sure they put in the work. They understand how hard it is to win, how important it is to do all the things right, to give yourself the best chance. So we spend a lot of time on it, and we make sure that we do the right thing. And I think the other thing too is your leaders are people that have to be accountable themselves. For those of you that remember our World Junior Camp this last December, two of the leaders were late for practice. And at the end of the day, I think our coaching staff, led by Andre Tournier, made a decision, said, I'm going to treat our leaders just like anyone else. The players were late, so their penalty was they're not coming on the ice. And they agreed to it. Those players made that decision themselves when he asked them the question, what do you want to do? And I think it showed the rest of the team right there that, they understand that the same rules have to apply to them as anyone else. He gave them the opportunity to decide what they wanted to do. And I think he felt they made the right choice and everything went well from there. So.
Yeah, that was a good one. Chris, what habits are non-negotiable for you?
I think it depends on the drill. I think number one, effort. Making sure that the player is working hard, that they're putting the effort in, that they're doing it with purpose, so that they understand that it's the execution of the drill and the preciseness, or whatever that you want to have it done is important. Players are going to make mistakes. If the mistake is from a skill component or a lack of understanding component, that's one thing. But if the mistake is from a lack of effort or a lack of caring or a lack of pride, then I think those things are where you really want to start with from a non-negotiable standpoint. And then when players understand that, the effort they put in, the pride that they take in doing the drill right and making a good pass so it doesn't screw the drill up for someone else is important. So those are things that even with young players, I want them to try and take pride in doing the drill right, doing it correctly. And we know they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But I think if you can get them on that mindset of trying to do it correctly and with the right purpose, I think those are probably the first things from a non-negotiable standpoint that I look for.
Love it. Matthew, what was the most difficult decision that you ever make?
Most difficult decision that I ever made,
Yeah.
besides telling Alex that I'll get back to him if I can do this conference. No, just kidding. I don't know. I'd have to be honest. I'm not sure I can answer that one right now. I've had difficult decisions to make from a hockey standpoint, something where it's, team selection or selection to players on a team. We've had difficult decisions selecting coaching staffs, difficult decisions from maybe an action or, a penalty that we had to put onto players for something that they did.
Too many, I'll say.
Yeah, I think there's, and not to say that a difficult decision is necessarily a negative one. I think you've made a lot of difficult decisions that end up being positive. But to me, I try not to be too sort of spontaneous or off the cuff. I want to try and get as much information as I can. Understand all the parameters and then make the best decision. And not always is every decision you make going to end up being the best, but sometimes you make sometimes maybe not the best decision, but it's for the right reason. So yeah, there's lots that goes into that for sure. It's a good question.
Yeah. Ryan, how have your teaching skills changed over the years?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, I've been fortunate in working with Hockey Canada to be around a lot of really good people. People that have worked at the highest level with the highest players, and also your volunteer moms and dads who are on the ice with their 6 and 7 year olds as volunteers. And I think to me the biggest thing is to never have a closed mind and to always look at learning. I tend not to be too black and white. Like, I never say never and I never say always, because inevitably something's going to happen that's going to counteract one of those two things. But I think over time I've changed more from more of a pure sort of skill element to more of a game application element. I look at that a lot more in the last number of years as, if there's something I'm doing, I try and reflect and say, is this going to happen in a game? Is this a situation that would happen? Is this relate to a game? So I would say that's the biggest element. And then probably, the second thing from a skill development standpoint is having a better understanding of how players develop differently. We could go into a lot of rinks right now and you're going to see a lot of people trying to teach kids, hey, skate like Connor McDavid. Hey, good luck. The person who can teach everyone to skate like that, you're going to be, very, very popular. But I think over time, I've really understood that, there's not just one way to teach skating. There's not just one way to teach shooting. There's not just one way to teach puck handling. Everybody is different. If we looked at, the top 5 players in the NHL, and even if we just did it based on points right now, they all skate different. They all handle the puck different. They shoot different, but they're all successful in their own way. So I think over the years from when I first started and I thought, okay, we got to get everyone to handle the puck this way. We want everyone to skate this way. I really changed from that. And it's more about trying to maximize what each player's sort of attributes are and how can you build on that. There's 50 goal scorers like Ovechkin who shoot the puck like they do, and there's 50 goal scorers like Leon Draisaitl who shoot the puck different. There's Crosby skates different than McDavid, than Matthews, and Patrick Kane, but they're all elite players in their own right. They all built different, they're moved different. So I would say I've really changed in that aspect as well. Is really not worrying so much about strict biomechanics. Yes, biomechanics comes into it in some areas, but in other ways, you know what? Some kids just move different, and the way they shoot the puck, it works for them. It might not be textbook, but it works for them. And in other areas, yes, we need to go back to the biomechanics and we can improve their shot. So to me, it's more of an individual basis instead of sort of a methodology, if you will.
I love your answer. It's amazing. Blow my mind. You're right on, I think. 3 more questions. Fergie from Manitoba, St. Adolphe. Hi, Fergie. He's a goalie, so sorry about the questions and the kind of word he's using. With players today, do you feel that they require more open drills with variables compared to blocked set options?
Again, I would never say never, and I would never say always. I think a combination is good there. There's going to be elements if you're working on something specific that you're trying to get across, then I think, you know, a block drill or something that is more structured is there. But at the same point, like I said earlier, I try to finish it off with sort of a player's choice, or fill your boots, if you will, where the players can understand. And I think, you know, from a goaltending perspective, you know, we really look at sort of scoring from the player's standpoint. Is it's always kind of cat and mouse. You know, goalies catch up to what players are doing and they become better. And then the players have to adapt and catch up to what goalies are doing to sort of tie into that. But I think at the end of the day, the core components of building a good fundamental skill set, and then being able to build on that and allowing some freedom from players is there. But, you know, I think, you know, when we look at a, you know, I've tried to take some things from other sports too. If you look at skateboarding or snowboarding, or the winter X Games or summer X Games, and what those athletes are doing with on their skateboards and their snowboards and their skis is unbelievable. And there's no drill manual for some of that. It's players trying things. It's skateboarders trying things. They look at the best kid in the skate park and they copy it and they emulate it. And I really think a lot of things that happen in the NHL game, which, you know, to me is the best league in the world, and that's where the best players are, that there's things that players do that they probably just came up with on a split second. And maybe they didn't even know that they did it. So, you know, there's a time for structure. And again, I think it can set a foundation, but at some point there has to be a combination. So, not sure if I answered your question sort of as directly as you would have liked, but I think balance is the key in all those things.
John, what is the one skill lacking players who are moving from minor hockey to junior team or even Team Canada?
You know, that's a great question. We have a lot of skills coaches who work with our teams at under 17, under 18, under 20. And when we're at development camps or different things like that, one of the things we ask them at the end is, you know, hey guys, what are some weaknesses or deficiencies in players that you see on a whole? Not picking apart one thing on one specific player, but on a whole. And I would say the most common three responses we get from across all of our camps is number one is puck protection, the ability to manage the puck and put it in a position where it's not going to get taken away. I would say number two, it's backhand passing and backhand shooting. And number three is probably angling, or understanding the proper path to a puck or a proper path to an opponent. Those would say, not always, but those are probably the three biggest deficiencies that I would say are common amongst players we see moving up to those levels. You know, every level that you go up, the players are obviously better, and even someone who's considered, you know, maybe has a poor shot on the back end at the NHL level, it's still actually really good compared to the level below. But maybe compared to the best, it has some work to do. So, yeah, I think, you know, and I would agree with that, is those three things. So angling, shooting on the backhand, backhand pass reception, backhand passing in general, and then puck protection is something that I would look at.
Thanks, Corey. I have three questions from the chat. So when you were showing us the defensive drill, would you think it's we should work with all our player, or we'll specify on our D-man, focus on on the D-man? The coach is asking it because he's U12 and he's seeing certain value to use it with the entire group. So depends of the age, or you show it to everyone.
Definitely with younger levels. In all the years that I've coached, even into U13, so the old Pee Wee age group, I've tried to switch players around from forward to defense all the time, and left wing to right wing, left D to right D. I think those are skills as far as, you know, puck retrievals that forwards can definitely benefit anywhere on the ice. You know, you put it this way, you never start the game with the puck on your stick. Really at any point. It's either off a face-off or it's a loose puck that you have to go get. So I think that puck retrieval component, the shoulder check, the stick fake, the toe turns, you know, all the elements are important for everybody. But I kind of wish that we'd have more coaches that would not classify players as forwards or defensemen at too young of an age and let them play all the positions and really get a good understanding. Yes, some kids are going to navigate more towards, you're going to see a 10-year-old and think, well, this player is going to be a defenseman or she's going to be a defenseman. But I think if you can still put them in those situations to learn all the skills, it's important. And I think they see the game from a different aspect. They see the game from a forward perspective. They see the game from a left wing perspective or a right wing perspective or a right D or a left D. One of the challenges we see with kids that old, as we talked about their ability to pass and receive on the backhand, is too many kids at a young age have been told they're a right winger from the time they're 7 years old and they only play on the right side. And so they don't have as many opportunities, whether it's in drills or in games, to handle the puck on the backhand or to make those backhand passes. So we see a negative result years later down the road. But as much as possible, I would encourage, do a lot of your drills, as many as you can, with everybody, forwards and defense. Yes, there's going to maybe spend more time with your defensemen on things, but inevitably in a game, there's going to be a forward who's going to get stuck back having to play a defensive role somewhere. A forward's going to have to walk the line. Defenseman's going to have to carry the puck on an entry and try and beat someone. So give your players as many options as you can to work on all the skills and all the positions, and it's going to pay off down the road.
Thanks. The coach was asking, when you're adding coach and the practice instead of a tire or pylon, is that defender static or active? You're doing it, and is that another layer to consider for progression of the drill? So you'll start with before with the tire pylon after your coach, or how you see it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would say I don't have a hard fast answer to that. Sometimes we'll just work on puck handling with nothing on the ice, no puck, no obstacle, no coach, no anything, and just kind of free, let the players kind of see everything. And then we'll add the obstacle, whether it's a tire, pylon, the stick handling obstacle, so that they have something specific that they know they have to beat. And then I'll add a coach or a player that's passive. Maybe they're standing still, but they're still moving the stick. And then get into the point where you add, sort of the active pressure, where they're going to try and play it like a game situation. And, sometimes I'll move along the continuum where we start with obstacles, we take them away, then maybe we add them back later on. So, I think you have to be creative with it a little bit and kind of look at where are players at. Ultimately, you want to be able to get them to the point where they can do the moves or change of speed, change of direction with nothing there, and they can do it at top speed. And then again, understanding where to do it if there's a defender there. So, I can't say I have one sort of method that I like to use. It changes all the time. It changes with the age of the players. It changes with the skill level of the players. Sometimes we add it. Sometimes we throw them out there just for fun. Again, it's a way for kids to just dangle, and they have fun doing it. So again, maybe your players you've gotten a little bit of rut in practice or something like that. So you just throw the stuff out there and let them have fun and fill their boots and try and see get players to copy and try and copy moves. And then when you add the chaser in there, that adds that other element of stress to it, and you automatically see intensity go up. But I think it's important to be creative and try different things and see what works best for your group.
Excellent. I had a question that was looking similar, so I'll pass on it. But if players are not progressing at your rate you expected, what you could do? Because sometimes we have a plan and we're seeing that it's not working well, or
yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think as a coach, you can go into the season and you can have every single practice planned out if you want, but inevitably you're going to have to change it. I try to go in maybe blocks of 5. So I might have an idea of 5 practices that I want to try and run, and sort of the general concepts that I want in each one. But, and then you obviously work with our assistant coaches or the other coaches on the team and say, here's the things I think we want to try and accomplish in this 5 practice block. And as we go along, maybe after the third practice, like, you know what, we need to go back. We need to do some of that stuff from the second practice again, or the first practice, and go from there. And some things progress quicker than you thought. Some things progress slower than you thought. But to me, one of the biggest things that I think is, as a coach, sometimes it takes a bit of courage to stay and work on the same thing, to go back and regress and work on something simpler. We all kind of want to get to that point where, okay, we've done retrievals, we've done breakouts, we've done all these things, but in a game, if you're just not seeing it transfer, I think the best thing to do is just to have the courage to be able to go back and work on the things that you need to work on. We see it at NHL coaches all the time, or coaches from any sport for that matter. Teams on a 5-game losing streak, and what do they say? We need to go back to the basics. We need to go back to the basics. We need to get back to the fundamentals. And whether it's fielding balls on the infield in baseball, or free throws in basketball, they're all elements. So I think you want to have a plan and have a good understanding of where you want to get to, but don't be married to it. Be flexible and able to change. I guess that's probably my best advice there.
But thank you very much, Corey. Really appreciate everyone. Our next conference will be with Riley Dudler. Riley will talk about strategy to win one-on-one. So thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight, and take care, and see you soon. Bye. Thank you, Corey. Bye.
Thanks, Alice and Mitch. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
It's a pleasure to have you on board.